Alright, so welcome to this new video, everyone. Don't mind the outfit. This video is shot on the winter solstice and I was inspired for a photo shoot, so I just figured I would just do everything in one go, so I just stayed the same. I'm lucky enough to have a very warm apartment, so I'm not actually freezing as you're looking at me right now. I'm actually okay. So for some of you who follow me on Instagram and followed my trials and tribulations into moving to Sweden, facing the banks, the administration and everything, this is the video you've been requested, where I will sort of recap everything that happened and walk you through the process. And you also asked me some questions on Instagram, so I will be answering those at the end of the video. So the video is going to be divided in 3 parts. I'm going to try and make it easy and quick for you, not like a half-hour long video, hopefully. So the first part of the video will be like a timeline recap of my moving to Sweden. Again, I'm going to just give you the broad strokes because the details themselves will take hours. Second part of the video will be what you need to know, what you need to remember prior to moving to Sweden, if this is something you want to do. And as mentioned before, in the last part of the video, we'll have more fun answering some questions. Okay, so my timeline actually starts in March in regard to Sweden, in a way, because, well, unless you watched the previous videos and vlogs and everything, you know there's been already some bumps on the road, but I officially moved to Sweden in March 2022. So at that moment, I actually lost my job just before coming to Sweden as I was boarding on the plane, because I had like a mini burnout and I had just started this job 3 months prior, and at the beginning of this job I also got COVID, so that took me out of the job for 10 days. And then the doctor around that time in March also put me on sick leave. They didn't like it and I was literally queuing to get on the plane, and I received the email to say that they were terminating my probation effective immediately. At this point I had 2 choices: get on the plane, not get on the plane. But I had come too far and I knew that I had the resources in me to make it happen, so I decided to get on that plane. Which means when I got on Swedish soil, I was out of a job and I had to find one pronto. Especially because I had like a week where I was actually back in Ireland, because before the pandemic I had booked a concert that kept being postponed, and I went to see Wardruna. There's 3 vlogs on that on the channel. Have a look, they are pretty nice, and I was so overjoyed to come back to Ireland just for that week. And so that was my week of, let's say, so basically I went on a plane, was in Sweden for 4 days, and then I was in Ireland for a week, and after that I was really focused on finding a job. I found a job as a waitress in a pub in April on my birthday, so April 8th. And I started officially that position as a waitress on April 14th of 2022. Then in May, I got to have my personal number, which is basically your social security number here in Sweden, which you need to be officially in the country. Then in June, I managed to open a bank account with only the personal number at a Swedish bank, but this Swedish bank is basically a sub-branch of a grocery store, basically, so it's ICA-banken, and they don't have offices anywhere. It's very hard to reach them, so it was just like an easy way for me to get my salary because I needed to have a Swedish bank account. Then in July I have my first appointment for my identity card, which failed because what I didn't know is that you need to have the passport, and I only came with my French ID card to that appointment with skatteverket. I will write it down for you, some of the Swedish words, because some, if you don't see them written down, you just hear mumble. So I go to that appointment and they tell me that I need to have a French passport. The only problem is my French passport was updated in May 2022. So in July, when I had that appointment, my passport was of no use. So I had to book an appointment with the French embassy in Stockholm to have all of my papers renewed, because my ID was actually part of a weird batch that was allowed an extended period of validation of 10 years, but is not really acknowledged and recognized here in Sweden. So that got me into a lot of trouble for no reason. So I decided to redo the identity card and the passport. So I booked the appointment, and in August, the end of August, I think, I finally get my French identification, so the passport and the national ID card, French. Then, from then on, I book a second appointment with the Skatteverket, which is basically the immigration office also, amongst other things. And, oh yeah, hold on, what happened there? No, okay, I remember, yeah, so when I went in May for my personal number, the way to get that, actually, because they didn't recognize my French identity card, but I could use my Irish residency card, and so they used what was written on that card for my personal number and insert all of my details, which means there was no accent on the E in the middle of my name in Adeli. So a few months later, when I have again that second appointment and they see that there is an accent on my French documents, but that is not present in their system, it's a whole thing. They're like, oh, hold on, there's an accent here, you didn't have an accent on our documents, so we need to send it back to Stockholm and have it fixed. And then they asked me, do you mind if there is an accent or not on your papers here? I was like, no, I don't mind, just give me my fucking Swedish residency card, which is my identity card, or the identity card or something, I guess. I'll write it down. And they tell me that, okay, that's cool, but it's gonna delay the delivery by a couple months. And then I was like, I was fuming, because it's been already a journey, and without this identity card, again, there was a lot of things I could not do. And I didn't care about this accent, but they still had to send it back to Stockholm offices or whatever. And if I didn't have that problem with the accent, then it would have only taken me 2 weeks to get that card. I should have taken them with me, actually, hold on. I got some notes because it's been intense, you guys. Alright, so this is now my new French identity card, and then I have the Irish somewhere, and this is my Swedish one. But this one is not a national Swedish ID, this is just a residency card that allows you and make you an official citizen, but not nationality, okay? So I'm here trying to get this card in this appointment, and if I didn't have the issue with the accent, I would have gotten this card in 2 weeks instead of 2 months. But because I had the issue with this accent, it postponed the whole thing. Which takes us back to now November 2022 still, where I finally get this card, the identity card that I've been looking for. And when I got this card, I thought that all my problems were resolved, because that meant I could finally have the bank ID, and having the bank ID is basically the red carpet rolled for you, and you have access to everything. And that was on the 21st of November, so literally like a month from now when I'm recording this video. So with this little card, I start, my procedures, see if the bank can approve this card, because back then, like a month ago, I thought that just having this card was enough. But no, because there is a difference. So on the national documents, you always have a little thing here, it's the biometric chip, which I do not have in this card, okay? So in order to have the Bank ID app has to be able to scan this little chip here, which is going to give it all the information. But because it's not on there, I couldn't do shit with the bank that I have. So that meant I had to try and open a new bank account into a new bank. And this is where it got complicated, because for some reason now every bank has a very long period of wait to just get an appointment to see if your application will be approved. So you're gonna wait 1, 2, 3, 4 months just to get an appointment, and you're not even sure you'll be able to open an account with them, which is ridiculous. So basically there's a few major banks in Sweden. I've tried them all almost, and it's the same kind of speech. And this is just like a very quick recap of all the stages. And where it gets complicated, it's with this bank ID. Because, as I was saying, the bank ID is your VIP pass for everything here in Sweden. You use it for to sign agreements, sign loans, tax return. If you rent an apartment and you have the bank ID, you don't have to pay for a deposit, which is, it could be... We got cut off by the cameras. Sorry. So yeah, even though you have a job, I would really recommend having money on the side and having money saved, because it's gonna tap into a lot of your resources. And if you can, try and find a job that would actually cover the expenses for you maybe, and help you find accommodation or something. I know some multinationals and corporate actually help you move to countries, but if you are doing this by yourself, and if you are not married to a Swede, or if you don't know a lot of Swede, then really have this neat and ready for you. Then of course the third one, I think I kind of touched on it a little bit at the beginning. Try to have like a very healthy mind, no mental health issues, and have someone, and if you do have some, which is okay, have someone that can accompany you in those issues, because friends and family, it's fine, but I think I should have called upon actual therapy by now, way before. I'm still struggling to find a shrink here, by the way, partly because of bank ID. There's a waiting time that is so long. I might actually heal myself until I actually get an appointment. So anyway, that's another topic, but yeah, check with your mental health before coming here. And then the final one would be to, not the final one, the fourth one, would be to have an up-to-date passport, because that can really, as you saw, trigger some issues, because they don't care about your national identity card, they want a passport. Because the passport is the proof that you can travel cross borders, even outside of the Schengen space. So make sure that your passport is up to date. And also the last thing you need to know is that moving to Sweden is kind of a lonely process. Don't expect too much support from the Swedes. I am the first, sorry to say that, but I've noticed that the Swedes themselves, they won't really reach out a hand for you. There is a bit this energy of this vibe of oh my god, they're struggling, how dare they struggle, like honestly, I don't want this, like, and they sort of distance themselves, and you can sort of feel it in a way, especially now that the right wing was elected to be in command. And you can really feel, like, I've been here for 10 months now, 9 to 10 months, and I can really feel that the net is getting tighter and tighter, and very few people, I think, will be able to move here in a very easy and smooth way. I talked a bit around in my circle, and it was always a bit challenging compared to other countries, but it was never that ridiculously challenging and closed and filtered. So it's gonna become even harder, and I kind of have a feeling that I was part of the last batch that managed to make it through at the last minute. But now that I really need to get things done on the last stretch, now that the right wing passed, everything is getting even more tight, like everything is shutting down, saying no. Like, for example, this accent thing, that's bullshit. This is so bullshit. Like, no one had that issue before. I mean, it's stuff they kind of make up to delay the process and perhaps discourage you from moving and staying there. I know it sounds a bit like conspiracy, but trust me, that's the case. Like, just like case in point, my closest friends here, I know most of them are not actual Swedes. They're all either immigrants or half Swede, half another nationality. But I was gonna say pure Swedes, but like naturally born Swedes in Sweden with a bloodline, you know, the blonde, blue eyes, all the typical Swedes. I'm not talking about national, I'm really talking about DNA here. I don't have a lot of them. And I was just very saddened to have that constant to be like, okay, I did not see this coming, but you've got to roll with the punches. So just don't really expect a lot of support in your help of coming here, or even any processes you're going to have to go through. I feel like it lacks a bit of compassion and actual will to help. So yes, these are the 5, I think, in my opinion, according to my own experiences, you need to keep in mind. Then we're going to move on to the fun part, which is the Q&A part of the video. It should be way more fun. Alright, so the first question that I was asked was, can you get a job and earn money in Sweden when you don't have the IDs you need? Well, it can be very tricky, and the jobs you will get are the one that I got. So the one as a waitress or some kind of janitor or agent, all those jobs that don't really require a lot of contracts. I actually had to ask my contract for these jobs. But more often than not, you work without a contract and you can just quit whenever you want. So if you want to get a job and earn money in Sweden, and you don't have the IDs you need, as you probably gathered, it's going to be tricky and probably unsafe. So be warned. The second question, I actually touched on that a little bit. Do you feel welcomed by the people? And no, not really. At the beginning, yes. But as I kept going and struggling, no. And the support that I got, again, was from people who moved here and didn't grow up here. Or that has, or they have like a mixed nationality, so they all have Italian or Scottish or Welsh, Irish and Swedes, but they usually don't have all the Swedes. Are the Swedish men sexy? Yes, a lot of them are. It is quite impressive to have sometimes you're just walking in the street and you're just getting...
Alright guys, so this is Editing Adelie and I'm at the airport editing the video, just realizing that a huge chunk of the Q&A disappeared and wasn't recorded by my camera. So I usually record with my phone, but because I recently reacquired my old camera, I shot with my camera and used this to get the questions. So I don't know what happened with this camera, so I'm gonna answer quickly the questions now. So we were on are the Swedish men sexy? And I was like, yes, because you're just walking in the street and you get blasted every 5 seconds. So yes, that answer to this question is yes. Then, what is the easiest thing for you since you live there? And I struggled a bit for this one. So for me, the easiest thing since I lived here, I think, was the feeling safe in a way, because as a woman walking in the streets of Sweden, I don't feel threatened like I would walking in France or other countries in the world. I would say that was the easiest for me. It's just like walking in the street and just feeling safe at any hour of the day or the night. That's a very relief and rest for the mind to have that. Then, how do you feel about those obstacles? Exhausted. I think facing those obstacles sort of drove me to this depression state, or increased it, or at least did not help what was already there. So that's how I feel, and I feel very sad and frustrated and angry that it got so difficult, because Sweden was or is, I don't know, sort of my promised land, and to me, was like the finish line. This is where I wanted to land for good. And now I'm thinking, if by next spring, coming up to the year mark, I don't have the bank ID or anything that facilitates my life in Sweden, I'm gonna have to rethink some of my plans. And to be honest, I don't have a plan B after Sweden. To me, I only have had plan A. So stay tuned, subscribe, hit the bell to follow my adventures, to see what I do. Do I stay in Sweden in March, in the spring? Do I leave? I don't know. Do you have friends you can rely on where you live? For a hug, for example. Yes, I do. There are very few, but I do have them. What's the thing you love the most in this country? Well, I think I said that already. It's the safety feeling, and also more often the practical aspect of the way everything works and the way they think here. I really appreciate that a lot, and I resonate with that practicality a lot. So I would say that's what I love the most, and the nature, of course, the nature and the space and the energy and the air. And yeah, just everybody minds their own business, perhaps too much, as you may have gathered in the previous minutes of the video. So yeah, the thing I love the most, it's this practical mind, which complements my very intuitive, creative brain.
Does Sweden inspire you as much as Ireland did? No. Is there a national dish? Meatballs. Did you start learning Swedish? I had a little bit, but now I decided, think of it what you will, but to be on a strike learning Swedish as long as I don't have a bank ID, because if I don't have the bank ID soon, there's no point in me staying here and struggle, so I won't bother learning the language, even though I used to love it. Now I'm at a stage of rejection in regards to Sweden a little bit, where I'm like, when I hear Swedish at the moment, I'm like, ugh, give me a break. And my thoughts can get pretty violent. I know it will probably go away, but right now I've reached this level of saturation. And I never thought I would say this about Sweden, because Sweden was sort of my promised land. And you can see that in my previous videos. Are Sweden guys really Vikings? No, I think only a third are the typical Vikings you would fantasize about. Alright, well, that about wraps it up. I hope I've answered some of your questions and shed some lights, give you some tips, and save you some troubles. And on that note, I wish you a good day.
Hey guys, so we've got cut off again, but that's okay. We were wrapping this up. So thank you again for watching and listening to this video, and I hope I answered the questions. If you have more, please reach out, leave a comment below, or send me a DM. I'd be happy to engage in conversation with you. And if you want, if I have a lot of demands, perhaps it could be interesting to do maybe a live on Instagram or YouTube, I don't know. Just let me know. And until then, take care and have a good one.